Hey everyone, this is Rick and welcome back to the Seed Startup Journey, the entrepreneurship podcast sharing the origin stories of amazing founders and the companies in 20 minutes. Today we'll be chatting with Calix Huang, a 16-year-old who has already started and sold 2 of his companies. How did he do that? Let's find out. Hey Calix, thank you so much for coming onto our podcast today. You are 16 and 2 of your companies you've started have already been acquired. Now, before getting into, the exciting acquisition story, I wanted to go back to the beginning of your startup journey, which I presume is not too long ago. Like, when did you decide that you wanted to become an entrepreneur?
So I never really had like a specific moment, I would say. I kind of stumbled into it just by starting my first company, and it wasn't even supposed to be anything substantial. It was just like a holding company, but I wanted to do something more with it. So it's just kind of an interest in seeing what I could do, and I guess somewhere along the way I was labeled as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I think something interesting I found is I believe you are homeschooled. What was the reason for that? Was it so you don't have to learn about, sales and Krebs cycle and have more time to focus on building your company?
Yeah, so actually that's not the reason. So started homeschooling in 6th grade, and right now I'm going to my senior year, so it's been 5 years, I believe, in this process. And I actually didn't get into it for that reason. I actually got into computer science and entrepreneurship in the last 3 years. I actually joined just because it was kind of something that we were shifting towards. At the time, I was doing a lot of competitive sports. I was competing on the national level for tennis. And so a lot of my peers in the same kind of age group and the same skill level, they were going homeschooled for that reason so they could train more. And so I went homeschooled and I trained more during the day, but that wasn't the reason why we went homeschooled. It was just because my sister kind of wanted to go into that system, and I was I just finished up 5th grade, so I can't really make a really calculated decision. So I was just yeah, we can do that.
So how did you jump from, playing tennis to, starting your first company?
When you get into national, I'm sure a lot of people in competitive sports, they know, it can get really competitive, it can get really high pressure. And I think at that time I was even though I was the same age as everyone else, I'm not as good as with handling pressure and competition. As well as everyone else. And so I had this really bad string of tournaments. I think I lost 5-6 tournaments in a row first round. And it was I had some of the worst, worst games and worst matches I've ever played in a tournament. It was really bad. At the end of that, I was just okay, I'm done with this. I quit. And so I basically just quit. I didn't have anything else I was going to focus on. It was just kind of oh yeah, I quit because I don't want to do this anymore. And so sometime in the summer or beginning when I was about to start my freshman year in high school, I felt high school was when you need to grow up and kind of become more, I guess, or I don't know. And so I was kind of I kind of had that realization. I was oh my God, high school, I have no idea what I'm doing. I spent the last 8 years doing competitive sports and now I quit both of them. I don't know what I should do. And I didn't come up with a solution at that time, but basically that stuck in my head. And my parents kind of pushed me to do other things. Luckily they're not super helicopter type of parents. But they were oh yeah, push me into some things. Hey, why don't you learn how to code? Why don't you learn how to do this and learn how to do that? And I was forced to take this Java course online on Udemy. And it was I hated it. I hated it so much because I had no idea what I was doing. And looking back, that was probably the worst course I probably could have taken. The instructor was so dry. It was meant for adults. My parents were really crazy about Udemy, the learning platform. I kind of wanted to rebel. I was you know what? You guys want it? I'm not going to look at it. I used to. And then one day, I think it was in September. I already started the school year and I was okay. I think I just started the school year. I was okay, you know what? Fine. I'll take a look. I took a look and then I found a course on ethical hacking, and it seemed really interesting to me, and it was only $12-13. So I bought it with my parents' money, of course, and so I took it, and I really, really liked it, and I told my parents about it, and they were really happy for me, and so I kept buying more courses, and each of these were $10 to $15, so it's not a big deal, and I kept taking different different topics, and then from there, after 3 months, I moved into actual programming, and then it was just kind of a really interesting progression from there, from different types of programming, different types of engineering, And then, somewhere along the line, I started to get into entrepreneurship.
Ethical hacking, is that like hijacking, your parents?
Ethical hacking is just kind of like using other people's tools and doing fun things like hijacking webcams and hacking really, really insecure websites that like are pretty much made for you to hack. And so like, I never learned anything substantially enough to actually hack someone. Like when I ever told people, they were like, hey, can you hack like this person's Instagram, this person's Twitter, can this email? Like, I can't do that because like
change my grade,
levels are so high. Yeah, exactly. So so I never learned anything too much, but it was a really great like learning point of interest.
I wanted to talk a little bit more about your latest company, which is Ours. It's actually a super cool virtual study platform where, you can work with your friends. Now, I know a lot of founders, when they come up with ideas, they look for problems, but I thought that, given that you're homeschooled, like you probably didn't really have a lot of classmates, or maybe, like, did you have a problem with studying in groups? How did you come with this idea?
Yeah. So like, I 100% agree with like build things to solve problems. And I wouldn't necessarily challenge the statement, but I would just add an extension of like, you don't always have to be like the origin of what you start doesn't always have to be a problem. Mm-hmm. Because like, I won't lie, like I've had like a very nice lifestyle, I guess, and I'm very, very privileged, very grateful to have it. And so I didn't really have too many like issues that were like burning for me to solve. And so when I came across the idea of Ours, it's actually a real technique that I just decided to put into a kind of a commercial use. Mm-hmm. And basically the way it works is you meet someone in a video call or a chat room and you just say, hey, for the next hour, I'm going to do like these tasks, and they would do the same. And you would just put on a timer for an hour, and then you'd stay there for the accountability, do the stuff that you kind of said. And then at the end of that, you reflect on it like, oh yeah, I was able to finish this, but not this, or it was really, really helpful. It was really, really productive. It was really great accountability. And so at the time I was looking for things to do, projects to build. And I actually failed like after 2-3 days because I didn't have the engineering experience to build it out. And so I left it in my notes, like the idea, and I dropped it. And then 6 months later, I revisited it in October because I was working on a different startup, but I was bored that night. And then I found it again, gave it another try. And I was actually able to build an MVP in like 7 hours. Wow. It was like really, really bad, but it was like, it worked. And so did a little more work on it after those 7 hours, showed it to my mom, showed it to my friends, and they actually ended up liking it and kept using it. And so that kind of gave me inspiration to quit the startup that I was working on at the time and just follow this. Because it was really, really fun. And it was like really the first time where I could see that people actually found value in what I was building, which I guess is kind of sad to hear saying it, but that's the reality.
So what did you do next? Like, after showing it to your parents, your friends, and they started using it, did it just start picking up? Like, were you making it better? Like, how did you get more users, or, how did you grow your idea?
I actually spent the first month or two just working solely on the product. I didn't really, do too much in terms of like, I got a little bit of feedback, but I didn't really put it out there at all. I didn't hype it up. I didn't build in public. I didn't do any of that stuff. I basically just worked on it because I wanted to work on it, and it was a little bit of a complex app. It was my first time using certain technologies, and so actually I had to make sure I learned those and make sure the way I was building it was correct. And so I didn't actually start putting it out there until like November or December, like end of November, end of December. And I actually found different user acquisition channels through Discord. Discord study groups, they're a huge thing. Random people on the internet love studying with each other. The way I found that out was actually really interesting. I basically made a Reddit post about Ours because like people like posted on like side project r/side project or something like that, or some other subreddit. So I did it, and then I got a DM from someone saying like, oh yeah, I really like Ours, and that's probably like the third time I heard it at that time. And so I was like reading it over, and I was like, yay, that's like amazing. And then the message that this person sent afterwards, they were like, we like it so much, we're using it in our study Discord server. And I was like, interesting. Can I get the link? Because I want to see. And I joined, and I was like blown away. Because like there were some people using Ours in the study server, but not everyone. But it was just like a bunch of people in like the voice channels, and they were just like studying with each other. And like they're not even speaking. They're just like playing music or like on mute. And they don't even have their cameras on because it's like Discord. People don't like doing that. And so I was like, this is the perfect place to be. And so I went on Discord, and I went on some public server directories, and it's like, wow, this is a huge thing. Like there were at least 120 study Discord servers in the world, and each one had like on average a couple hundred, couple thousand members. And so I just committed myself. I joined every single one of them, and I like tried out different strategies on how to get them on there organically. And I did that for like 2-3 months, and it was like a really big grind, but it ended up working out.
How many servers did you join?
I actually, I joined enough to figure out that the limit is 100 servers that you can join at once. So I did some like really, really like weird growth hack thingies where I like made multiple accounts, and then I kind of talked with myself within the server to gain engagement and hope that other people join the conversation, right? So
I feel like I should try using your tactic to promote my podcast, you know?
Yeah.
Talk to myself, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. You gotta think outside the box.
For sure, no. So, I mean, Fiveable eventually acquired ours, but how did that happen? Like, you know, how does it work? Did you just casually reach out to the CEO and said, you know, hey, you want to buy my company? You know?
Yeah, so a lot of people ask me, like, did you reach out to them or did they reach out to you? The short answer is like both. So basically, the second user acquisition channel that we had was cold emailing. So we cold emailed high school teachers because their emails are public on staff directories online. So it's like we just scrape those, and our response rates were really low. It was like 1%, 2%, and then our click rates were maybe like 6%. So one of the teachers that I ended up emailing, he responded and he was like, cool, I like this tool, I'll share it with my students. And I was like, cool. And he was like, I'm actually partnering with a company called Fiveable. I'll put in a word for you. You should email them you should email their CEO. I think you guys could become good partners. But I was like, I mean, they're a big company. Like, at least to me, they were a big company. But I never considered reaching out to them until he suggested it. And so I was like, okay, I'll do it. So I emailed Amanda, who's the CEO, and she got back to me in like 3 to 4 weeks. Like, by then, I had already forgotten that I contacted her. And when she responded to me, we hopped on a call, and I kind of pitched it to her, but I didn't pull out a deck or anything. It was just kind of like, hey, this is who we are. This is what we do. This is our journey so far. Like, we've only been up for like 3-4 months, 5 months. You know, it'd be great if we could partner in some way. And it ended up being a good fit because they have incredible user acquisition. They have incredible brand. But at the end of the day, at the time, they were kind of just like a resources company, and they didn't have like much utility for their users. And so they're very seasonal. And so this was like a really good point of utility. And I actually only figured out after the acquisition that this was actually something that ours was something that they considered building. And so when they saw this is exactly kind of what they were looking for. But a big notion within Fiveable is built by students for students. And this is exactly that. And so I think that's what captured their eye. So I called with Amanda, and then we kind of hopped off the call, like thinking that we could become partners in some way. And took me 3 weeks to get in contact with our head of product. He asked for all of the metrics, all of the numbers. And then the week after that, I called with Amanda again. And then she was like, hey, we'd actually just want to like, maybe an acquisition is better because we want to work with you on like such a close level that we might as well just invite you into our team. That like from that point, it took like 5.5 weeks to actually close the acquisition. Like there was a lot of negotiation, a lot of like roadblocks that we hit, but ended up working out. So when people ask me, it's like both because I reached out to them, but they posed the acquisition to me.
Wait, and that's like what, in 5 months, 6 months since you started the company?
A little over 4 months after I started. They acquired it, or a little over 4 or 5 months, around there.
Can I ask if it's like, you know, life-changing money? Like, can you retire already at 16 years old?
Definitely not retire. It's definitely not retire type of money. It was a 6-figure valuation. Right. What's a big perk is since I'm a solo founder, I got all of it instead of having to split it with anyone. It was a really big dilemma if I would take it or not. There's always a possibility of like, where could I take it? Like, could I become bigger just on my own? But at the end of the day, taking the acquisition gave me opportunities and experiences that were so accelerated that I would have to wait years to experience. Like we got on TechCrunch with the acquisition. I kind of like, this gives credibility for me to really talk with a lot of different people and feel confident with what I've done. Some of the experiences like Fiveable actually helped me get a venture capital internship with one of their investors. And I got to learn a lot through that as well. So it gave so much acceleration to where I wanted to go and really gave me insight into like, if this is the place where I want to be. I kind of just had to think about like this is literally a once in a lifetime opportunity, because it's not just Fiveable is just like the perfect company to acquire hours. There's not really many other companies that I would say like fit in so well with the vision that I had for it. But also a company that took so much time and effort to actually work out a business deal with a minor. I mean, a lot of the issues we ran into is just because I'm underage. It was like, you know, what kind of company is going to like spend the time to do that? You know, not too many.
Yeah. I mean, that's awesome to hear. And I mean, after going through this, you know, cycle of like starting a company, you know, building up the product and eventually selling it, has your views on entrepreneurship changed? Like, do you consider yourself an entrepreneur? Is that what you want to be?
I mean, the whole experience was probably one of the best experiences I could have had. At the same time, it was like one of the most torturous experiences I've ever had, because it's so full of stress. And especially since I didn't have a co-founder, it was really hard to navigate that whole thing myself. Which gives me like assumptions that like if I tried to continue on my own, I might have just like broken down and it would become nothing. And so I think that the decision that I made to actually sell it was definitely the right one. I've been able to meet new founders and entrepreneurs or aspiring founders that are just absolutely crazy, like dropped out of high school, has no social life, and you know, they're willing to go on these 5 to 10 year road commitments with, you know, venture capitalists or whoever it may be. And it kind of made me reflect on like, if that's the life that I want to be on, right? I guess you could say that like I have done entrepreneurial things. And I guess in a way, like I feel comfortable saying that I am an entrepreneur, but to say that I want to be a better entrepreneur in the future and I want to be on this path forever, is something that's still up in the air.
Yeah. So then I was wondering, you know, if you could give, you know, a piece of advice to other aspiring entrepreneurs, you know, someone who might still be a student, but they're interested in starting their own thing, what would you say to them?
Yeah, I think I used to say work hard, stay focused, and you definitely need to do those things. But I think what might be more important is to actually understand if this is what you want to do. I've started like 3 different or 4 different, like whether it was a company or a venture, like I've tried so many times, and ours was the first and probably right now the only one that's actually ever worked out. Like I have like a terrible track record, to be honest, when it comes to starting stuff, right? And so it definitely takes a lot of luck. But I think what's important is to make sure that you kind of just enjoy life, I guess, right? Like at the end of the day, there's so much more than just like making a lot of money and being famous, right? Like you can be Justin Khan, you can be Gary Tan, and you can have everyone love you and you have a lot of money, but like at the end of the day, it's like, what do you got? You know, like do you have like good relationships with family and friends, and do you actually like, do you enjoy little things? Like I think a big lesson that I learned after the acquisition was just appreciating little things. When I got my first paycheck and I was like, oh yeah, that's super cool, right? But then at the same time, I ended up ordering from Amazon. I ordered this. I really like Rubik's Cubes and I like solving them fast. I used to be crazy about that stuff and I decided to get back into it. So I bought a timer for it and I received that on the same day. And I was actually more happy that I got that than this paycheck that was worth like 100 times more than how much this costed, right? I think making sure that you're staying grounded, enjoying the small things is really, really important.
Yeah, for sure. So what's next for you? Like, are you working on college apps? Are you building the next big thing?
I'm working on college applications, working at Fiveable as a product manager. I'm also building a project that's really a lot different from what I've ever built. It's very, in some ways, emotional type of project. And so I've been doing that, and school's going to start up soon. And so, yeah, it's just going to be a lot of kind of going through different environments, getting exposure to different situations so that I can learn kind of like as much as I can before I finish up high school.
Got it. Yeah. So to kind of wrap things up, I prepared a quick game. It's called This or That, basically giving you 2 options and just pick which one you like more. The first one, time travel or the ability to read minds?
Read minds.
Harvard or MIT?
Maybe MIT. I don't know. I feel like when I hear someone went to MIT, it like hits harder than when they went to Harvard. I don't know why. I will say Stanford. I would choose Stanford over both in a heartbeat. Wow.
Okay. Well, I guess you can send this clip to the admissions. Awesome. All right. What about Twitter or LinkedIn?
I would say Twitter because it has provided like a lot more benefit than LinkedIn, but I love LinkedIn, to be honest. So can't live without both, I guess.
Books or podcasts?
Podcasts. Like I really don't like reading. I'm really bad at reading. I'm pretty slow at reading. I love learning about other people's like backstory, like people that I may admire.
Yeah, check out The Seed.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. And this last one, a really great product or a really great co-founder?
Really great co-founder. Because there's so many different kinds of ideas that you can have. And when you think about all of the different combinations and all of the different places that need improvement, you can find great product ideas in a lot of different places. It's not easy, but it's more prevalent than finding a good co-founder for you. Maybe someone who's close, someone who has complementary skills, someone who understands you, someone who's supportive. And I'm still on my quest to finding a really good co-founder because I haven't found anyone who really complements my skill set and my personality as well as some people I've seen. And, when you have a good co-founder, you can cycle through so many different ideas. And when you land on one, you're going to kill it.
Yeah. No, I think I totally agree with you on that. Awesome. So this is it for today's interview. Thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, I wish you the best of luck.
For sure. Thanks so much, Rick. I really appreciate being on here.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. I definitely felt super inspired after chatting with Calix. But the thing that I'm most impressed with isn't the fact that he sold his company for 6 figures, but rather his attitude. Life isn't just about the money. It's about whether or not you actually enjoy it, especially the little things. I think that's something worth keeping in mind. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite part or your takeaways are. And before you go, if you like our weekly episodes summarized in 1-minute droplets delivered straight to your inbox, make sure to head over to our website and subscribe. I'll also put the link in the descriptions. With that, let's grow our seed of innovation and creativity together, and I'll see you next time.